everybody, my name is Kirsten Winkler, this is EDUKWEST, and together we are on the search for better education. Today's interview partner is Harman Singh, serial entrepreneur and amongst others CEO of WizIQ. Harman, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, good. And Harman, let me say it like that. I think you have one of the most outstanding personal careers in the e-learning industry. And please tell us a bit more about the way that led to your latest project, WizIQ.com.
Okay. See, WizIQ, although it started about two and a half years ago, I was thinking about this idea, started thinking about it like 4 years ago, but it wasn't as concrete in my mind as it is today. So we started out slowly. Before that, I have always been involved in e-learning. I was a teacher myself for a year, more than a year, and after that I was even a tutor part-time. And I was coming from a technology background. My academics has been in computer science and everything, so I was always very connected with e-learning, ever since I started my academic career in undergrad. So I stuck around with the idea of teaching through technology. Initially not so much over the internet, but internet was the obvious next step. So I did a lot of research on e-learning during my master's. And then I started this company. I started out slow. WizIQ was not in the picture. That was in 2002. But e-learning was the big idea, where I was developing software for asynchronous content creation, and we were doing some custom projects like learning management systems for local colleges and universities in North Carolina at that time. And that's how it slowly evolved, and we were writing a lot of technologies like the virtual classroom and so on. It came to a point where WizIQ kind of a platform made a lot of sense.
So, according to what I've read about you and what you've just told me, you took your undergraduate degree in India and then went on for a master's in the US. Okay, and then whilst studying, you founded your own company in 2002. It was right. So, what was really your Eureka moment, or what was the exact opportunity you didn't want to miss, so that you said, okay, I will found my business now, even I'm still a student, but I don't want to miss this chance?
Okay. So honestly, it wasn't really the huge big idea that I stumbled upon, unlike a lot of other ventures might have started like Google and Yahoo. It was more of a thought of entrepreneurship, that I was good at certain areas. I knew that, and entrepreneurship has always been inside me, I guess. My father is an entrepreneur. He stayed an entrepreneur throughout his life. I grew up in that environment, and ever since I was a kid, I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. So it was a very logical choice for me. So it wasn't really a big idea that I stumbled upon that I would have started. It was just an industry I thought I liked, which is e-learning and technology, and I just jumped into it. So which is why you see, in the initial part of my career, I was involved in services projects. I was involved in serving clients like community colleges, universities, and so on, for e-learning projects. So it wasn't like going to a big idea and starting a business. It was more of entrepreneurship, yeah.
But I myself like very much the idea of the edupreneur as well. So I think it's for many of us, it's just a logical thing, just as you said. Okay, and interesting for me was to see that you took the decision to run a part of your company, or almost completely the company, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost from the beginning offshore in India. And was this just, let's say, business-wise decision, or also a way to give something back to your home region in India?
Okay, so yeah, you're right. From day one, I started the development team here in India, and that is where all our engineering has ever happened. It was again a very logical outcome. I did not have too much money when I started this business. I put in some of my money in my family money into the business, and the idea was to keep the cost low. Yeah. And I had experience with dealing with engineers in India. The cultural thing was obviously with me. I had contacts here among the people whom I could hire and trust and get the ball rolling without incurring too much cost. And it slowly so happened that the logical choice is now becoming the choice of everyone in the world. You know, the entire computer science part, the development part is being outsourced to India. So it wasn't outsourcing; it was offering. It was. I truly believe that to build such a platform or any such business, you need to have your own team doing it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if they're sitting in the US or India or wherever. You need to have your own team. So answering a question, it was to keep the cost lower. That was the main reason that we started in India.
I see. Okay. What exactly is the focus of your business these days, as Orthogen is offering a wide variety of different products in the e-learning sector, and are they all part of a bigger picture, or do you see them as individual components?
We actually are, in a sense, you can say that we are running two separate businesses here. One is AutoStream and the other one is WizIQ. Although WizIQ is dedicated towards the education part, as you can see, and most of my time is spent on WizIQ. And AutoStream is a PowerPoint sharing platform, and we were working on this technology for a very long time as a part of our technological initiatives starting in 2002, 2003. So, and we, it made a lot of sense of PowerPoint sharing space, so we just launched it, and it grew very rapidly. It is growing very rapidly as well. So these are the two main businesses of our company. One is AutoStream and the other one is WizIQ.com. AutoStream, if you really see, and we have even have statistical data on PowerPoint sharing, 30 to 40% of the presentations that are uploaded on AutoStream are actually educational presentations. So that tells us about the PowerPoint software industry, which is, I believe, 30 to 40% of this market is among the educators as well, and educators are kind of the power users of PowerPoint. So the good part is, so that is the overlap we have between AutoStream and WizIQ. And in other words, we have access to a lot of educators through AutoStream as well. So,
that's interesting. So you have the link between the two products. And just going for a moment before talking about WizIQ more in detail, but AutoStream is of course very interesting as well. As you say, like 30 to 40% of the users are educators. So, and you said it's rapidly, or from the beginning, it has been rapidly growing. So what makes AuthorPoint, AutoStream, your product so innovative and different from the others?
Yeah, absolutely. So in AutoStream, we just focus on one thing, which is PowerPoint. We believe there are a lot of things you can do with PowerPoint using the internet that you otherwise cannot. Nobody else provides that. For instance, if you really see, if you actually go and check out our punchline, we say AutoStream, do more with PowerPoint, right? Yes. So you have to look at PowerPoint not just as a presentation tool. It has become an authoring tool, and arguably the most popular authoring tool in the world. I would say that there are more people in this world who use PowerPoint than the people who can probably create video and edit it and so on.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
So people and PowerPoint over the last 10 or 12 years has come out with so many powerful features that all the content creators, including educators, find it compelling to use it for a lot of different purposes, which is why e-learning is one of the use cases that PowerPoint is so much used in, right? And so focus is the user of PowerPoint, and I'll give you examples of certain things. See, one is uploading your slides on the web and just sharing it with the world. There's so many other platforms that do that. But if you really see AutoStream, we are working hard back end in the technology area so much that once you upload a PowerPoint onto AutoStream, we want to make it look like the PowerPoint slideshow, as if you had no idea that it's been uploaded on the web, as if none of your animations should miss. Whatever you mention in there, if you embedded a video, it should show up. If you narrated an audio, it should show up. And if you see all the other presentation sharing platforms on the web, they don't do that. And that kind of a thing takes a lot of effort, which is why we have decided that we're going to stay focused on PowerPoint. We're not going to go after Word documents, Excel documents, and so on. There's so many players in that space. We just want to stay focused on PowerPoint and enhance PowerPoint further with the kind of capabilities it doesn't have built in to allow a creator to create more compelling content on the web. I'll give you an example. Recently, we released a desktop software accompanying AutoStream. It's called AutoStream Desktop. Mm-hmm. It is a simple PowerPoint plugin. It shows in as a ribbon inside of PowerPoint 2007. And one of the features we give in that is you can search for YouTube videos right within PowerPoint and insert it inside the slide, and then just share the slide on the web. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just share the slide on the slides on the web. So now see how compelling a presentation or content somebody can create using such a tool that otherwise you cannot. So our focus is PowerPoint.
And to embed this application or embedding YouTube videos in PowerPoint presentations is, as far as I know, really unique on the market. You, as author, Jen, are Microsoft Gold certified partner, I think. And why did you choose Microsoft and not, for example, OpenOffice?
Okay. So, I think the choice there was Microsoft versus open source rather than OpenOffice. OpenOffice has much fewer users as compared to Microsoft Office, so that is the market reason. But anyway, not choosing open source technologies like PHP and MySQL and those kind of things and going with Microsoft mainly was one reason. The main reason was that in India, in those days when you go and find good developers and engineers, Microsoft technologies, the engineers working on Microsoft technologies were much easier to find and a lot more than open source technologies in those days. So we actually did not have much of a choice at that time. Although now we do have a choice, but we stuck around with Microsoft because we have ever since we started, we have been a Microsoft shop. So the good thing is Microsoft improves their products very rapidly. They have very good support system simply because they charge us money for doing it. And Microsoft, being Microsoft Gold certified and so on, gives us a lot of discounts on the software we buy from them.
Okay, I see. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, now WizIQ. When I joined WizIQ.com last year, it was basically the classroom, which is of course still the heart of the website, we could say.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, WizIQ rapidly grew into a complete online teaching as well as learning platform. So was it planned this way, or did it more happen as a natural development?
A little bit of both, I would say. But as I said, with my background on e-learning, I was well aware of a lot of the needs of the students as well of the teachers. And I always was a firm believer in building a platform starting from the side of a teacher and a tutor, more than on the side of the student. My belief has always been that this industry is driven by teachers and not really by the students. Students are like the buyers. They need education. They need to prepare for an exam. They need good scores. But it is the anchor of this industry is actually the teachers. So we started out building the platform for the teachers so they can easily use it. I mean, teachers are, teaching is a great industry. I love teachers. I've been a teacher myself. I really respect this community. And I think they're doing a great job, although they are mostly underpaid all around the world, which is something I hope WizIQ can change someday. I think a good teacher needs a lot of tools. He can use internet in very constructive ways to teach. Started out with that. Now, from the business standpoint as well, this philosophical direction made a lot of sense. It turned out to make a lot of sense. We were criticized a lot about not focusing on the student first. But I stuck to my decision on focusing on the teacher because he's really the driver. Now, if you don't have classes, you won't have students. If you don't have content, you won't have students. If you don't have active communities, students are not going to stick around. So everything pointed towards the direction of the teachers because these are the guys who create content. These are the guys who give classes, who keep the discussions active in the community. These are the guys whom students want to interact with. So that is how we started building up. Now coming up with the different features and stuff. See, this whole education industry, the one angle of looking at it is the consumer, the buyer, the student. No matter what he says, at the end of the day, he has to accomplish his goals. In a more technical sense, his learning objectives, right?
Right.
So, and I believe a virtual classroom alone can definitely supplement or even replace a physical classroom, but it cannot. It's not complete in fulfilling the learning objective of the student. So, for us to be a valuable business, we have to get to a point where the entire learning objective of the student is being met through our platform and not just, a one-off virtual class on something. So when I say learning objective, it is a huge term and there are many different ways to accomplish it. But on the internet, what we've seen is what works is if you have live classes, if you have tutorials of various things, maybe you have some learning games and assessments. So if these 3 or 4 pieces are put together and such tools are given in the hands of the teacher who knows how to use it, when to use it, I believe the entire learning process, at least in certain areas in this industry, can happen through the internet. And that is what we want WizIQ to be. So just summarizing this process, we started out with a virtual classroom use case for the teachers. The goal was that we have a lot of teachers on the platform using it. and then slowly keep offering them other tools like test and assessments and tutorials, etc., that they can use in the entire learning process.
And explaining and listening to you, hearing your philosophy, it already came out in the first talk we both had some months ago when you told me that WizIQ was built around the needs of the teachers, and I think this is very important to hear for my viewers, and it absolutely goes along with my own experience. I know that WizIQ is very open for input from the teachers' side, and as far as I know, you are the only company in the e-learning industry which really has or names its own classroom product. I mean, in fact, one can say that WizIQ is the only virtual classroom on the market, whereas other platforms are just using classic web meeting applications. So, do you think this gives you an advantage over the long term?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. We have made a lot of investments in the technology, especially the virtual classroom, and there's a reason behind it. I've been checking out a lot of web conferencing tools ever since I got into this industry, but you're right that none of them actually met educators' needs. So we had to design the virtual classroom from ground up, and I've done it personally myself. And in fact, in the next couple of months, you will see the newer, absolutely new version of the virtual classroom with all the feedback that we got so far in the last 2 or 3 years. So all the other tools, including Skype and Adobe Connect, and all the web meeting tools that you see around in the world, are not really geared for education. They are like meeting tools like the one we are using right now. I mean, it is a video conferencing tool. You can't really take it to the educational world. Yes, you can do certain classes on it, but you can't really do the entire learning process. I believe
it's always compromising, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Integrated content, recordings, very important. How a teacher is able to control the whole thing, and the virtual classroom. Some students are, can create certain problems in the class. You have to check them out. So those are the kind of things are required in the virtual classroom, and that none of the tools gave. And secondly, it's not just that; it's also a step beyond it, which is the enhanced user experience. In this industry, I see ourselves competing with not really other platforms in the world like Adobe Connect or other education, video education websites. I see ourselves competing with the real classroom, with with a chalkboard and a chalk, or a marker and a whiteboard. That is what we see as our competition. And I am a firm believer, and I think we had this in our last conversation as well, I'm a firm believer that eventually this digital learning will replace most of the classroom learning experience. You still need to use the classroom for certain situations, certain use cases, but I believe 70 to 80% of this, the whole education process will go online. And not because people won't have other choices, but because this would be the best choice. We already see that. So that I believe that day is not far where the user, a teacher and a student are in the neighborhood, and they say, hey, let's use the WizIQ virtual classroom instead. Let's not meet up. And that kind of a thing. So answering your question, coming back to it, yes, technology is a super important piece for us, and we are responsible for the entire user experience of the teacher and the student, so we wanted that in-house. So that was a simple reason we wanted to do it.
And speaking a bit about language learning communities like LiveMocha, Babbel, or Busuu, and they have really impressive numbers, reaching from around 500,000 to over 3 million. but they don't focus yet on live lessons. And what's your opinion? Will we see a move of those communities into the direction of platforms like WizIQ, or do you even plan to offer yourself self-conducted learning elements, as you already offer tests on WizIQ nowadays?
Could you repeat the second part of your question?
Yeah, sure. So, do you think it's more like they will take the direction coming closer to platforms, offering teaching themselves, or you as WizIQ, do you also think of implementing self-conducted learning elements on WizIQ, as you're already offering tests, like teachers could use these materials as well as students can on WizIQ?
So you mean self-conducted modules?
Like in those learning communities that you would make WizIQ having some part of self-learning section, for example.
Okay. So you mean something like asynchronous thing. So we are...
Definitely.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. See, we don't... so let me answer the first part of the question first, which is what I think other platforms would do. I clearly see basically two directions in this industry, in the consumer online education space, if you may. Which are either you become a marketplace where you provide a platform like we do to the teachers and teaching companies, or to become a self-provider, with lots of students on the platform. You come up with innovative products yourself and start selling those products to them. Be it packaged like courses or whatever it could be. So these are the only two directions I see anyone can really go. And we, for ourselves, have chosen the direction of marketplace. There were a few doubts a couple of years ago how this would shape up, but now we do not have any doubt, because things are moving really fast, and our assumptions are coming out to be true, that teacher entrepreneur or training companies really want such kind of a platform. There's the market, which is the students and parents, can come and buy their services. So we just want to stay as a platform provider, as a marketplace provider. We do not intend to start our own products and services for the students. So we would always be providing tools to the teachers so they can provide those services to the students.
Yes.
And not us getting into that space. And that limits us to a certain degree for certain kind of things, but that opens up a whole new area, a whole new market for us on the other side. So it's like we would be doing certain things and not certain things. So that is the way it has to go. But we want to be that provider of the platform to the teachers.
I see. And what do you think of the possibilities mobile solutions offer or will offer for e-learning, especially in countries as India, China, or also Africa, having exponentially growing numbers in cell phone users?
Okay. So, yeah, this is a very interesting area, and I've been thinking about it for a while now. It's amazing that you have all these questions ready.
I think we're thinking about many of the same things, but good to see.
You're right. So, see, again, learning and knowledge kind of areas are very abstract. There's so many different arguments how somebody learns and stuff. All we are doing is making the information flow between a teacher who is the expert in that area to the consumer who's a student of that subject area. Information flow easier and more effective in terms of how rich media, live videos, and content and so on. So all we are doing is making that transaction possible. So can real learning really happen on the mobile phones? That is a big question. So I don't think anyone, including our company, can stay away from the mobile just because the sheer numbers of the penetration of mobile are so high compared to desktop computers and laptop computers and broadband internet that we just cannot ignore that area. So what we intend to do is, which is basically all we can do, is provide a platform, you can say a replica of the WizIQ platform on the mobile phones, and for information delivery. It will be the same teachers, the same students, the same kind of content moving on to the mobile phones. That is basically how I see mobile learning moving into the next step in the next 3 to 4 years. And for that, obviously, what the basic requirements are improvements on the technology part. Not everybody has iPhones or $500 or $600 phones.
Yeah.
I don't expect that to be the case with a normal Indian student or an African student anytime soon. It has to be a $100 or $150 phone that they can use for doing stuff that today people do on iPhones. So we have one direction in technology. We are experimenting on how we can provide our entire WizIQ platform on the mobile phones. It is some time away, at least a couple of years away, if not more, for that to happen. But 3G is just coming to India. It just started, just a few months ago.
Okay.
In the next 1 year, we see those numbers increasing rapidly, and we want to capture that market. And as I said, hopefully our virtual classroom will work on the mobile phones. Hopefully our tests would transfer there and so on. We're working on those technologies as well.
Okay, yeah. So that was good to hear that you gave the outlook for mobile in the next 3 or 4 years, and then you mentioned before that in the near future you think around 70 to 80% of lessons will be conducted online. So let's break it down for WizIQ. My last question: where do you personally see WizIQ in 12 months?
WizIQ, I'm more concerned about on WizIQ. I'm more geared towards. I'll be happier if lots and lots of teachers start giving more and more classes on WizIQ. Now, current trend, what we see is that lots of teachers use WizIQ, but only for about 5 or 6 classes a month.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the reasons for that, I believe, are it's online learning is still not mainstream, and I don't, and I don't see that happening in the next 12 months either. Mm-hmm. In the next 12 months, it will grow incrementally, but not really to a drastic level. It will take 3 to 4 years before, let's say 25 to 30% of the learning starts happening online. And if we are a market leader at that time, I think we'll be in good shape. But that is like 3 to 4 years from now. Okay. In the next 12 months, my expectations from WizIQ are that we have about 1.5 million students, and about 250,000 to 500,000 teachers using our platform to deliver classes. And I believe that is the way to build this business, that we have a large user base using WizIQ at least for 5 to 10% of their teaching and learning needs, and slowly as the user experience improves on the internet and our technologies improve, that usage goes higher while the number of students and teachers also increase. So you can say about 1.5 million to 2 million is the kind of students and teachers we expect to be using WizIQ. I'll be happy with that.
Okay, good, and wish you the best of luck. But I think you're on a very good way as WizIQ, and Yeah, let me thank you so much for this interview, and to all my viewers. So Harman will not only be a panel member on next ETCon on 27th of August, but the event itself will be hosted on WizIQ.com this time. So if you don't know yet about WizIQ and its virtual classroom and all the other options it offers, this is the chance for you to experience it. And also, of course, to ask Harman your questions directly during the Q&A section of ETCon. And all information you need can be found at etcon.eteachersacademy.com or below this video. Okay, so Harman, again, thank you very much, and see you next week on the ETCon.
Absolutely. This was great as always, Kirsten, talking to you. And
thank you.
we'll meet at the ETCon. Thank you.